And I found it only to be accessible when I get the people into the deepest possible level of trance. I take them through their therapy first because we're looking for the cause of something. I do a lot with physical problems and diseases, illnesses, and just about every kind of physical thing you could think of. I've had people come to me. Many of them are getting ready to have operations. If they can get to us before they have the operation, they won't need the surgery because we find out why they're having it done. Because you make yourself sick. You give yourself the disease or the illness. If your mind is that powerful enough to make you sick, it's also powerful enough to cure you, what you understand. Because I found every ache, pain, symptom of the body is the subconscious trying to give you a message, trying to tell you something in the only way it knows how. Pain. It's going to get your attention, and we don't understand what it's trying to tell us. So it'll get a little worse, and a little worse, still trying to get your attention. And if we still don't understand what it's trying to say, it can end up with an illness or disease that's going to be a lot harder to fix, usually into surgery or all these drugs and things. The doctors are only putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. They're not going to the cause of the person's problem. This is part of what OT was writing about also. You got to find out, why did the person choose to make themselves sick? And people can come in to see me and talk about different parts of their body they're having trouble with. I can usually tell them what's happening in their life because the subconscious will always affect the same part of the body to give the person the message. It's very literal. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. And so that's why we go back to the past lives to find out why are they doing this? Where's it coming from? A lot of it comes from trauma, the way the person died in another life, and they carry that forward into this life. But, well, you know, even, I'm not trying to watch my time. I don't have as much time as I gave the other people. But somebody comes in with back problems. It's always the same thing. Shoulder, back, down the spine, especially into the lower back. Can you figure out what that would mean in this life? The subconscious is very literal. I always ask them, do you feel like you're carrying a load? And they usually are. They got a job they don't like, they got a marriage they don't like, they're too busy, they feel like they are carrying the world on their back. The spine is your support system. And usually that's what it goes back to. Sometimes it's just understanding what it is. People with leg, knee, ankles, hip problems, it's usually the same thing. They are at a crossroads where they're being offered a chance to go a different direction. It may be a big change in their life. It might be something they are not sure if they want to do it because it will give up something. And they're trying to make up their mind, do I want to do this or not? And they're holding back. By holding back, they create pains in those areas. And you know, people end up with knee operations and hip operations, and it's just as simple as trying to find out what it is and make them make the decision. Now, this side of the body, the right side of the body, refers to now, things that are happening right now in your life. The left side of the body is holding on to things in the past. So if you have pains on that part of your body, it's something to do with letting go of something in the past. And all these things have been told to me in my work. That's why I go with, that's the past, this is the now. Arthritis in your hands. What is it you don't want to let go of? What are you holding on so tightly for? See how literal this is? And a lot of times, see, I spend at least 2 hours or more just talking to the person before we ever have a session. Just doing therapy, getting to know them. And then it's like, what's going on in your life that's creating this? And sometimes they'll say, I don't have any problems. I just thought it'd be interesting to come, you know, and have out of curiosity. But after we talk for about an hour, then they'll finally say, well, you know, I do have something bothering me. because they got to get to feel comfortable with you and know you, and then they can begin to tell you their real problems. So I do a lot of work with a physical. Now, that's what I'm talking about, the subconscious is this big oversoul, higher self, whatever you want to call it. I call them they, because they always refer to themselves as we when they communicate with me. They said, we can help unless the person has had an operation. It's because if something's been taken out, we can't put it back, which makes sense. They can do a lot. I have seen them in one of my classes just a few months ago in Chicago. The whole class watched as they rebuilt the cartilage in this woman's knee. She was due to have a surgery the next week. And they said, well, you know how difficult this is? And I said, I know, but I know you can do anything. And so they rebuilt the cartilage in her knees. And afterwards they said, no, she's going to go back to the doctor and they won't find anything wrong. And it was a lot. We were doing the whole thing. And then even during the session, it said, well, let's just do I call it a body scan. They said, let's do that and see if there's anything else. And they said, well, we're going to work on her heart while we're in here. And I said, what's wrong with her heart? They said, she's got a murmur. I said, that's not that bad. They said, yeah, but we'll fix it while we're here. And but so she was due to have a sonogram before she had the surgery anyway. But anyway, see, when these people wake up, they have no memory of what's going on. That's what I mean. You get that conscious mind out of the way. After she woke up, we had 20, 30 people in the class all crowded around the table watching her, had her on a massage table. And afterwards they said, you just performed a miracle. Don't you know you just performed a miracle? I said, I didn't do anything. They do it. And this is the kind of power that I work with. It's so vast and it has so much knowledge. And a lot of people want to have information about their marital problems, family problems. They come for all kinds of reasons. So we work with everything, and that's my therapy part. And the subconscious, I always ask them to take it back to the most appropriate past life to explain what's happening now. Because you've all had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes. Everybody has. You're going to get something. You can go to a hypnotist and have a past life. It's not hard to do if they know how to do it. But then what are they going to do with it? They don't follow through. It's just an interesting thing. I want to take you to the one that's going to explain what's happening now and then fix things. I like to fix the person. I don't want them to leave if they're not fixed. Does this sound strange? But I'm teaching it now, and my students are emailing me saying, it works, we're able to do it. And in the beginning, I didn't know, could I teach it to anybody? When you develop something, can you show somebody else how to do it? So I thought I'm going to try, but they are telling me now they are beginning to understand it. The doctors in Russia want me to come back and make sure they're doing it right. But there's no guarantee everyone's going to be able to do it. I think it takes a certain, I don't know, what I think it is, they are not going to work with you if you don't come at it from the right angle, the right reason. Because I kept saying, what if I teach this to someone and they use it in the wrong way? I don't think they're going to work with people if they're not using it for the right reasons. But this is what I'm going to get to next, is where my information comes from that I write about. Now, I've also had 20 years working with the UFOs and ET cases. So I wrote 4 books about that, and I've got theories that nobody else in the field has come up with, because we go to what's really going on. But anyway, I'm doing the session, and during the session, when we get to the subconscious part, and they start explaining, I have the person bring a list of questions, we go over the list of questions, and they're answering everything that is appropriate that they can. Sometimes it has a time factor and they can't tell the person everything. But it is always the same voice through everybody I work with. Same phraseology, same terminology, same words. Now, how are you going to explain that? It's different if someone is channeling one entity or something. This comes through everybody, thousands of people, everybody I'm working with. It's the same, whatever you want to call it. He's too big to call a being. It's the same intelligence or whatever you want to say. And it knows me. To me now it's like having a conversation with an old friend. It's just like, hello, okay, now we'll get to work. But everybody I work with, it comes through. Now the strangest thing that began to happen was toward the end of the session, they never interrupt the therapy, but toward the end of the session they'll say, Dolores, this is the next piece of information you need for your next book. And they'll give me a theory that I've never heard of before. Sometimes it's interwoven into the whole session. Well, then that may be in England. I'll get home. A week later in the U.S., I do another person. They come through again and continue what they started in England to give me the rest of the theory. And this comes through person after person until I finally got what they want me to write about and want me to lecture on. And how are you going to explain that? That's what people don't understand. What I'm dealing with here is highly unusual. But it speaks the truth, and it's always the same information through everybody. Now, how can you explain it? Some people have said I must be lying, I have to be a fraud, it has to be a hoax. I don't know how anybody can say that. Even in my classes, I played different tapes from different people to show it sounds alike. And I have some people in the audience here I know have taken my class. And don't you agree, the ones who have taken the class, that there is something bigger than all of us that we're communicating with? So why not pass that on? They said this is a therapy of the future, that we're not going to need doctors, surgery, or anything. We're going to be able to help ourselves with our own mind. Anyway, they began giving me all of this information, and what I'm getting now, if I'd got it 20 years ago, I would never have understood it. They're very wise that way. They started me out 30 years ago. I've been more intense in the last 20 years ago. But 30 years ago, it was simple stuff. And it's like spoon feeding you. Give you a little piece of information and see if you can digest it. Then give you a little more and see how you handle that, and a little more. I had everybody that comes to see me wants to know one question: what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? It's a universal question. Everybody wants to know it. We can find out if it's appropriate. Because the subconscious says, suppose we told you too soon. Maybe what you're supposed to be doing is so radically different than what you're doing now. If you found out too soon, you'd say, oh, I don't want to do that. I'd never be able to do that. And you'd block yourself and sabotage yourself. So if you're not supposed to know, they will come through and I ask that question and they'll say it's not time. We can't tell them. If it is time, they'll tell you everything you need to know. But if it's not, they'll say it's not time. I had one man, they'd said that, and they said it's not time, but we can't tell him. But they said, oh, we wish we could. You don't know what we see. But they said, consider he is where you were 20 years ago. He said, you don't give a baby a 3-course meal. You start a baby out with milk, with cereal, crushed vegetables. You don't give a baby a steak. You have to spoon feed it little by little. And he said, he is where you were at that time. If I had got the information I was getting now, I probably would have stopped my whole practice and said, no, I don't understand this. It's too complicated. And I wouldn't have done any more. But I was led into it gradually to where I'm getting now the information for the Convoluted Universe series. That was a total surprise. I wish I could go back sometimes to the easier days when it was just history, but they won't let me do it. it just getting more and more complicated because I was doing the UFO material. This is in the book, The Custodians. And they were giving me all these theories about what was happening. And toward the end, suddenly they began getting into different metaphysical concepts. That's when I knew I was going to have to write another book, leading away from UFOs. And I started writing Convoluted Universe, Book 1. And they kept giving me a little more and a little more. Like, okay, if you understand this, digest this, we'll give you a little more. I still don't understand a lot of it. I tell them you're going to have to give me analogies, examples, so that I can be able to talk to people. I can't do it if it's so abstract that I don't understand what I'm talking about. So they do that. They will give me examples, but they said sometimes these are very poor examples because there's no words in our language for what they are actually trying to get across. They said, all of your questions will never be answered because some information is as poison rather than medicine. The human mind cannot handle it. They said, it's not the brain, it's the mind. The human mind has no concepts in it that can understand the totality of what it's really all about. And I know I'm getting more and more and more. I got one just a month ago in Montreal, and I said, for Pete's sakes, guys, what are you trying to do? You know, I keep thinking there's nothing else left to find. They've told it all to me. Then they throw another one at me. And so I know I'm not finished, but it's like, I have to understand this to explain it to people. That's the hard part. But that's when they began giving me the concepts as we went along. And a lot of it has to do with simultaneous time.